this is also done. And look who we have here, the one and only Shalini Pasi. Welcome Shalini.
Hello, beautiful ladies. Good to see you here on this beautiful day. Am I supposed to start right now, or what is the format?
No, we just let you relax for a minute. Please sit.
Formal introduction.
And then we'll give you a formal introduction and call you on stage.
I'm sure our next guest needs no introduction. She is an art collector, philanthropist, a fashion patron, and advisory board of Kuro Khoj Studios, founder of MASH, and she has partnered with UNICEF in Purnia, Bihar to enhance early childhood development by improving health infrastructure and providing guidance for caregivers. Proceedings of all money she's made from her television debut, Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives, was donated to UNICEF to further their joint mission. This has led her to her current journey to set an example for Delhiites having taste for art and fashion. Presenting to you, ladies, one and only one, Shalini Pasi.
Hi, beautiful ladies. Hi, beautiful ladies. All of you look so amazing. I'm coming from the airport, so please excuse me for my attire. I love wearing saris. And so, like, all of you are here so beautifully. I can see so many friends. I can see my friends' parents here. Thank you for having me and on this beautiful day. And I think the most important thing that we all, when we are listening, I was today actually listening to a podcast about the history of saris and the way that our culture has adapted it in different ways, the weaves, and all of us today, we have just made it our own. Each of you, when I see here, tells us so much about the personality of each wearer, how they've draped the sari, the fit of the blouse, the way they carry the pallu in their hands tells me so much about that person. I think no other garment in the world is can be so worn so uniquely to each personality. And sari, of course, is our, like, I love saris. My mom wore the most beautiful hand woven saris, and I love wearing chiffons because whenever I wear a beautiful weave, I cannot match up to my mother and my grandmother because they looked so elegant, and I just feel I get lost in the weaves. But thank you for having me, and let's start this session.
Before that, Joyshri, would you please come on stage? Let's go ahead. Shalini, thank you for endorsing our event and coming here. We would like to start by asking you, how often do you wear a sari?
Well, I wear a sari when I go to the temple, which is very often, and I wear a sari when I'm happy. I wear a sari when I'm sad because it makes me look amazing, and I love, honestly, I think I'm one of the first people to actually wear the sari on the show. I love wearing saris, but today I'm coming straight from the airport, so I've put on this skirt over my polo neck and tracks. So very often, but not during my not like day to day.
Is there any special sari memory or memories that you would like to share with us?
I remember of course, my mother, grandmother wearing beautiful saris. But I think when I used to get a draper to help me tie the sari, when I got married, and I used to find it a little difficult. Then Suneet Verma, who's an amazing designer and a friend, he actually taught me how to drape it properly and get me confident with the pleats. So I'll never forget him, the way he draped the sari for me. I actually have never forgotten, and I can wear a sari like with my eyes closed. So from that day on, yeah.
Shalini, you've been gracious enough to donate a sari from your wardrobe. Please tell us the story behind this sari.
Okay, so the sari is actually, it's got left at home.
Okay, doesn't matter, but you promised
In a
one, so
hurry.
we'll have it later.
Yes, so I'll have it sent later. So this is a beautiful Banarsi sari which I'm donating, and it's from Raw Mango, and it's from one of Sanjay's beautiful collection. So I'm donating that.
Thank you so much. Tell me something, you posed as a Raja Ravi Verma muse in saris when Pranay Vaidya tried to recreate the magic of Raja Ravi Verma paintings. Now, how did stepping back into time feel for you?
So, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do, over the years, that we all want to do, like these pet projects that are close to our heart, or fun things just with friends. So, during the pandemic, I made most of that, and Pranay and I actually got together. He has some of the most beautiful weaves, and we just sat together and we just, we had time to do all that. Yeah, okay, it's cool.
Okay, tell me something, you hinted about a major textile art on the cards. Would you like to tell us more about it?
So I think textile is something which I know very little about. Our Indian textiles, like I can see all these amazing women, and I'm so embarrassed to speak in front of them. I can see them all sitting here. And textile is something which I have not explored personally as much as I would like to. So with the foundation, we are trying to, tie up with maybe weavers, or maybe, have some that sort of a thing where we can develop a project with contemporary designers and traditional weavers.
Thank you, that's really interesting. Now, where did your journey into art start? That is something we really, really want to know.
So I used to paint when I was a child. I started painting when I was a child, and I wanted to become an artist or an architect. But I was terrible in math, so that was out of the question. Architecture was out of the question. I continued pursuing art, and finally could not go to art college because my family felt it's a 4-year program and I would be married before that. And of course, I was married when I was 20. I had my son at 21. And but I continued. I used to go to Triveni to learn art with Miss Shobna Baruta and Mr. Baruta, and I continued my journey. And then finally, collecting came very naturally, because all these artists, I had seen their work, and I had been to the studios. So that is a part of the journey.
So tell me about MASH.
So MASH is an art foundation. We are non-for-profit. We support contemporary Indian art. We have a podcast. We were the first in Art Indian History podcast, which we launched during the pandemic, and we support projects that are that a gallery will not sell. Like, we try to promote art, like performance art, or develop projects which are not really for sale but are for viewing or have a message.
And what are the mediums in art that you most resonate with?
I think definitely painting, because I think painting is so timeless, and an artwork is it's like how a reporter writes about current times. A painting is actually that artists comment on our current times. So I think painting for me is most powerful, but I love also mixed media and the new mediums that are there.
Tell me something, your house is itself a work of art and has a very unique shape. What was your creative vision behind the design and the art pieces you collect?
So basically, when we were constructing the house, my idea was, I was very inspired by the Guggenheim since I was a child. I loved the architecture of the Guggenheim Museum in New York. And so the curves are inspired actually by that. Also, some of the artwork, a lot of the art pieces are very strong and have a very strong meaning. So if they're placed with furniture, they sort of get lost, or it looks very strange to have very powerful works alongside furniture, or where people are just sitting or eating. So the idea was to have certain spaces which are just dedicated to art and are not in a living space. So not in a bedroom, not in a drawing room or a dining room, because sometimes the conversation is casual and frivolous. So I wanted to give certain pieces of art that importance, whereas to have nothing in front of them. So that was the idea.
I think you really have managed that. And how do you think art has helped you in fulfilling one of your dreams in life?
I think art has been for all of us, you know, and it's not just contemporary Indian art, but here I see all these beautiful artistic ladies. It's not just self-expression, like it's also like, you know, it gives us hope. Art transcends time. Like I'm sometimes when I'm standing in front of a building, I get very emotional because that building has been there for the last 300 years, and I am stuck in my problem. Oh my God, my phone is not working. And then I forget that the phone is not working because, you know, art and architecture transcends time. So for me, art has been like a mother, a grandmother. Like I just go to art for everything.
Oh my God. So you are an avid dancer and a singer too. What attracts you to these forms of art?
No, I sing because it's supposed to be like, you know, we have a yoga asana, which is the simhasana, where you're supposed to release the negative energy. And singing is also a form of releasing negative energy from the body, and I actually sing bhajans a lot. And I just sang on the show, but I'm not a singer. So I like
But
to
you
sing
really
every
do
day.
sing well.
I dance every day because I really enjoy dancing, and instead of doing a regular cardio, I dance. So I have a dance teacher, different dance teachers, and I practice different art forms.
So today you are being called the celebrity of the year. So when you stepped into this new role of being a star in the reality show on Netflix, were you nervous?
Actually, no, but that's what I tell everybody, and maybe it's too. I always say, listen, I was always a star. Now you all have come to me, come to know me now.
That's a good
I always
one.
thought of myself as a star, but it's just that you all know me now, so it's fine. Well, I think for me, doing new things is very exciting because I get bored very fast, and also I like different, you know, cinema and being in front of the camera. It's like a whole, like if you see, I'm standing here, but there'll be another 50 people standing there who are producing this. So it's a totally, completely different art experience that I've ever seen. The camera, the lighting, how things are cut and joined. So for me, it was I wanted to experience that medium, and also I feel that, like, you know, art, dance, music, architecture, each art feeds off another and adds to another. So for me, it's very important to know different things. I also had the phobia of the camera before 2018. There are almost no pictures of me before, like very few pictures of me before that. I used to, I used to get very nervous, and I also used to stammer before. So it was actually an evolution for me to be able to come in front of the camera confidently, not stammer, so it was also all that.
So you did enjoy the journey with Netflix and being there in front of the camera and transitioning from being a very private person to a very public figure who everybody wants to hear.
So I think, I think that is the giveaway when you decide to come on screen or on OT. It's like you're giving away a lot of your privacy, of the personality you are out there, your outfit. Like if I was not a public figure, like I would actually would not feel bad that I'm not wearing sari because no one would notice. But like I'm here on the sari, they're not wearing sari. I felt terrible, but how do I manage to be on? So all that, everything is under public scrutiny. Your hair, if your hair is looking good, not looking good. If you're looking very good, then you are very, very. You're so much into yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking very good, they'll say, oh, like she's always getting dressed 24/7, and so there are all those things. But at the end of the day, I know my heart, I know my journey, I know my life, I know what I do, I know what I'm not able to do, I know my faults, I know my mistakes. And people can say, like, sometimes I just open the Instagram, I see these funny things that I've had a hair transplant. I'm like, my hair looks so good that I've had a hair transplant. Like, yeah.
So tell me, in one of your episodes, you talk about color and outfits changing the energy of a person. I know you're a very spiritual person. So does it have a connection there? Can you elaborate, please?
I think even in our Hindu culture, we have this thing, you know, different colors for different days, different attires for. So I think I'm a believer of that, you know, because how a garment drapes you and the flow of the garment and how it restricts us or how it allows us to move, I think makes a lot of difference. And I think we all are pretty. Now I have people who like change in the middle of the party, giving my excuse. So.
So isn't that interesting? You have influenced the way people behave and the way people want to keep on changing their clothes.
Well,
maybe. So what? Sorry. So you have really made us proud by advocating so well for Delhi, and we really admire you for
I
that.
was very scared because, you know, I have worn diamond clips on my head. And a lot of our women friends, they wear these beautiful traditional clothes and they obviously don't dress like me. They dress better than me. My friends dress better than me and I was very scared that they're going to kill me because I was representing Delhi. But everybody seems to be happy and I'm grateful for that.
And so what, according to you, is the difference between Mumbai women and Delhi women?
Well, I think the difference is in the eyes. It's a very fast-paced life. Also, the weathers affect the way they dress. Here, like literally, it's such a beautiful day. We can wear anything we want, any color we want. It'll look amazing. In Bombay, it's not possible because it's hot and humid almost throughout the year. So that affects. And also, like I think what I feel and what I always tell everybody is that it's so important to have one foot in tradition and one foot in contemporary. And that's Delhi masters it so beautifully. Bombay, somehow they feel it's not cool to be traditional. And I think Delhi, we do that. We are very traditionally rooted and we are very contemporary in our thinking. So that works for us. That works for me.
So 3 cheers for Delhi from Shalini. Okay, tell us about your philanthropy motivation. So what is it that makes you give and give so generously?
I don't know if it's generous enough. First of all, there are people who've done much more. So I think all of us, I see Vasvi sitting there, we had our children at the same time, we're almost the same age. And you know, for us, we got married young. I got married when I was 20, we had my son at 21. And by the time he was in university, 2015-16, I was questioning every Guruji, every Panditji from, you know, whichever temple I visited, that what is the purpose of my life? I said, I can travel anywhere I want, I can buy whatever, you know, and but is that it? Like, is that it? Am I just supposed to be this person who is privileged? And what do I do? And I just did not feel like that my life, I felt that did not have meaning. So then many of them said, and I also read that, you know, live for a higher purpose. You have everything, now use this for a higher purpose. So then I thought that, you know, having Art Foundation, which is doing non-for-profit work, I work 24 hours a day. I went to Big Boss and I had like 7 hours of peaceful sleep because I didn't have my phone and I knew I couldn't, you know, leave. So, and when I came out, my team was like, ma'am, you look so fresh. I was like, yeah, I slept. So for me, I think I needed a higher purpose. I needed a goal bigger than my own to get up from the bed every day in the morning, because everything else was taken care of. Everything else was, God has been very kind. So like in the morning when I wake up, I have to throw myself out of bed. There is no half an hour staying in bed because I know my team will be there. I know the foundation work has started. I know that I have X amount of meetings lined up. I have to go to bed on time. I barely socialize. So, but that gives me motivation, that gives me a higher purpose, and that keeps me going.
So I have to tell everybody here that Shalini is donating all of her earnings from the highly popular Netflix series Fabulous Lives to a Bihar village and also for UNICEF projects. Can you tell us a little more about that?
So we started the art-based therapy program in Purnia in Bihar, and I've been visiting the village, and they have a team from Africa who's actually helping them, help the families there. And it's an ongoing project, and I hope like maybe one day Tiki ladies can visit that village. Is beautiful. It's on the border of Bihar and Nepal. And when we go there, we realize the what a 500 rupees can actually buy, because it's I mean it's a lot of money for them. What we think is less for us.
So tell me something, how do you suggest that all women here and women in general, how can we contribute in our own way, sort of to uplift India and to help out the people who are not so lucky? And
Most of the women there, I think your organization is doing a pretty good job. And I think you have to be passionate about what you're doing, and also getting associated with an organization where your funds will be really well used. That sometimes became an issue for me initially, but then I narrowed down UNICEF for that particular reason, because my skill is not managing funds. My skill is like generating funds, generating interest in a project, awareness. Mine is not, I'm not an accountant, like I can't do in math, so that's not my strong point. So
now for a different kind of question. So Shalini, you have unmatched charisma, and how have you acquired it?
I don't know. Well, actually it's when I was in school, my sister used to say, "You are like one kagas ka fool who just looks beautiful, has no charisma." My sister will kill me for saying this, because I used to never talk, and I was an artist, so I was pretty much wrapped up in my own world and very simple. And some who all knew me when I got married, I used to barely speak. And then again, I was told this thing many, many times, so I had to really cultivate it.
Okay, a few quick questions for you. So how do you see yourself? A woman of substance or a woman of glamour?
Well, I think being a woman of glamour is a weapon, and I would use it to be a woman of substance.
Oh, wow. What should a woman aspire for? Beauty or brains?
Both. I think women can have it all. I think we should aspire for all. And I think beauty is there, and we all are beautiful. We just have to feel beautiful. It's people who make us feel differently and say things to us. But ask your grandmother, like if anybody makes you feel bad, remember what your grandmother told you, that you are the best. And nobody's opinion will matter.
So what is the right word to describe you? Curious or creative?
I'm curious and creative. I think if you're not curious, you are dead. If you don't have that want, right, then you're dead.
So the curious people are the ones who will become creative
Yeah,
people,
it's
or
like-
are naturally creative people. Okay, what would you normally do to take? Would you take stress or would you give stress?
Well, I think I delegate. I think I'm good at seeing what people's strengths are. When I meet a person, I'm able to judge their energies, and I know their capabilities. I only function because my team functions. I'm very, very dependent on them for everything, but I'm also a one-man army. I'm dependent on no one. So I'm not scared that I'll have this tomorrow, not have this tomorrow. I can do everything alone, and I can do everything with 100 people. So for me, I think it's, we all know that we've run homes. What are you saying? We've run home, managed in-laws, we've done it. We've been to school, looked good, gone to functions with our husbands, worked in the day, done 100 things. So I think Indian women are very, very strong. So
I think all of them become natural leaders and also team managers. So are you answerable to yourself first or your family first?
I am answerable to my God first, always. I feel very afraid if I intentionally hurt anybody. If unintentionally, when I come to know, I always apologize and make it up to the person. I'm very scared of karma. A friend of mine, somebody was praising me to a friend of mine and saying, "Oh my God, she did this for me and she did that for me." And my friend's like, "She didn't do it for you. She's a karma collector. She's afraid of what will happen if she doesn't do, if she doesn't help people."
So if you were to go back, say 20 years in time, what is the one thing that you would like to change?
20 years, no, I'll go back like maybe 30, 40 years when I was in school, I just study a little more harder. So I don't have to study now.
So a lot of fame has suddenly come your way. You are in the limelight currently, and what does that mean to you? And how are you going to use your popularity?
So after the series released, I was supposed to, after 5 days, I was supposed to go for a vacation, and for a really long vacation. And I love going out, I love traveling, I love going to new places. I had to cancel my vacation, and there was a point I was doing around 10 interviews. Yeah, we were doing around 10 interviews. We had set up a studio in the house where we had different medias in different rooms, so from room to room, so we could use my time. Have people who are paid to have parties. Guests are paid to attend a party. When I entertain, I do it for the joy of entertainment. And I invite people to my home, which sometimes I don't even know, for the love of art or fashion. So I'm very honored to be called a socialite.
So one more question, that with praise comes criticism, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I think criticism is, I mean, I'm a perfectionist. I love it when people say something to me that is not correct, or I'll go and correct it. I'm really obsessive, and in fact, like, sometimes people say something and I actually really do it really well. And somebody said, "Oh, you don't know how to cook. Your mother didn't teach you anything." I went and learned 7 cuisines within the next 2 years. So it works the other way for me. So.
Okay, so last but not the least, is there another season of Fabulous Lives coming?
What do you think?
I think
What do you
there
think?
should be one. It was so popular, and with you there, definitely.
Yeah, but I maybe all of you should come on it too.
Oh, that'll be so
Yeah,
nice.
we can have a picky event.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, we are on. Jayashree,
Okay.
are we on with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so shall.
Yeah.
Oh, she has to sing. Yes.
I've
So that request is coming from Vasmi and Namita ji. I have nothing to do with that. So please look there.
look, they've asked me, did you put her up for this? I'm suffering from, anyway, but I'll sing regardless. It's not about the voice, it's about the thought, I guess. Which song? Bhajan. ऐसे तो भजन आप गीतों के साथ I don't sing
It's
bhajan.
all in the mind. It's not in the outfit.
Yeah, okay, let's which one? जुस्तजू जिसकी थी, जुस्तजू जिसकी थी, उसको तो ना पाया हमने। जुस्तजू जिसकी थी, उसको तो ना पाया हमने। इस बहाने से मगर देख ली दुनिया हमने। जुस्तजू।
Thank you so much. What a melodious voice. And thank you from all of us. And I would really like to have Ritika, Nidhi, and Amber quickly on the stage, please.
I'm a fan of yours.